most people are over the moon with Kundalini and Reiki. So we will dive into the critical stuff today. So Tony, welcome back. How are you?
Yes, I'm good. I'm struggling through every day this crazy place, and yeah, I'm really just trying to see the fun in it all at the moment. Some of the things that happen in my daily life with these people, just you just got to laugh at them, and I'm finding that's a real medicine to be able to cope. It really is clown world. I mean, I don't. It's no exaggeration when I call it clown world. It really is a circus out there, and I think you've got to poke some fun at it. Otherwise, you'll just go insane, and you've got to find the humour in it. I'm hoping this is my last time round, so might as well make the most of it. Hey, so and they hate that, these entities and the people that control it. They don't want us like laughing and being happy and finding humour in things. So I'm trying my best to just smile through it all and do what I can. Really, you couldn't make it up, could you?
Yeah, that's so true. So, Tony, Reiki. Yeah. A lot of people are fully over the moon with Reiki. And
well, yeah, I mean, it's obviously very heavily entwined into the lovely New Age movement, the rainbows and unicorn farts that everyone has got caught up into and get stuck there, which is what I refer to as the second layer of the matrix, where people are having or waking up to certain truths, and then they're being funneled into the New Age movement, which really keeps people passive and keeps people from speaking up and just think high vibes and everything's going to be all right and you're going to be in the new earth, just over that rainbow bridge over there. Just keep those vibrations high. Don't look at anything negative, God forbid. So it ties in heavily with that whole New Age agenda. And I would just start with the name. I mean, the etymology of the word Reiki. I mean, when you're raking something, you're kind of like taking something, aren't you? So for me, the name straight off the bat is it's suspicious. And I have to say, I was into Reiki years ago when I wasn't really heavily into the New Age, but I did go through the process of my Reiki 1, Reiki 2, and Reiki 3. So at one point I was a Reiki master, right? And I hate that term as well because it really ties into like spiritual ego, like I'm a Reiki master. Like it doesn't sit right with me. And even at the time that I remember thinking, I don't know if I like that title of master. It seems like kind of like slave and that kind of thing. So yeah, I have been through the process. So, but ultimately, down the years, working in energy and clearing stuff and sort of understanding how false light beings work and how they use this kind of like false light frequency, I would describe it, which very much is like a spiritual high, which makes people addicted to it. And it can make you feel good in the moment, maybe for that hour or for that day. But ultimately, there is like the inevitable crash. And whether that comes a day later or 2 days later or a week later, there's that feeling of, oh, maybe I need to do it again or something like that. And, you can feel like quite off. And I've had a lot of clients down the years that have told me that they got into Reiki and then after a while they were really not feeling good. Something felt off. And then some of them started like hearing voices and stuff like this. So, again, on the surface, when you look at it, it all seems innocent, sweet, healing each other. We do have that potential. We all have that potential. But the problem is that we're hooking into what I describe as a false white light energy grid. So this isn't organic. This is set up. And when you set your intention to hook into that grid, you are then accessing that false light, that false high energy. So what I say to people is you can I wouldn't even call it Reiki. You can lay hands and you can heal people, but you just literally set your intention to use your own energy and let it flow. You don't need any false light grid. And I know through the symbols, these entities, they feed on the Reiki energy as well. So it is triggering for people. I get that, like all this New Age exposure is, but it really is something that people might want to reconsider. And I've heard it so many times, like a drug, like ecstasy, where you have that incredible high. And then of course there's that crash. And this is why, you have to keep doing it over and over again, like balancing the chakras and all this other stuff that you need to do. And ultimately, a lot of these people that are into not just Reiki, but all these other New Age modalities, they spend hundreds and thousands of dollars and 2, 3, 4 years down the line, they're not feeling any better. In fact, they're feeling a lot worse many times. So we have to ask ourselves, where is all this getting us? And I think we're at a stage now where everything needs to be put on the table to be questioned. Even things, and maybe I've said this in our podcast previously, but even things that we call traditions. We've had things like Reiki and yoga and meditation and all this stuff for God knows how many thousands of years. And people say to me, yeah, but Tony, it's old. Tibetan monks used to do it. Well, okay. Where is all this stuff getting us? Because right now we literally have no rights and freedoms left, and we've been doing all this stuff, and all these new ages are doing it, and they're not getting anywhere. So how is it actually benefiting us? And so, yeah, Reiki, just to underline my point, is tapping into the false light energy grid, which I think they are using this false light energy grid at the point of death, where people are being love bombed. If you look into near-death experiences, where people come back or, trick back or whatever, they often describe this incredible feeling of like love energy. And I think that it's that same frequency that is being used with Reiki, that incredible false high, which is really cruel when you think about it, that they use to try and hoodwink and crowbar people back down. And it's very difficult to turn away from that. You hear it in these NDEs. They feel that incredible, overwhelming love energy. And then obviously, Jesus or Buddha or whatever their flavor of savior turns up at the pearly gates. And we know what the rest of it goes like, oh, Judith, you were a good person, but you hurt Dave back in, 2005. And, look what you did, and they make you feel their pain. You hear this all the time. They make the experience go through the pain of the person that they caused the issues with. But they say they're not judging. They're not judging, but they're going to make you feel all the pain of what Dave felt. So this false light energy grid we need to be very aware of, because it's very alluring, not only in this lifetime with all these new age modalities. I would say Reiki is not the only thing that taps into this. There's probably other modalities as well, but also at the point of death, this incredible luring feeling, this energy that is encapsulating people to come back down. So it is a kind of a morbid topic and a triggering topic for so many people. But I mean, it goes back to, do we want to feel good in the moment, which is what the new age is about, just feeling good? Or do we actually want to get out of here and actually understand the levels of manipulations and deceptions that are being used to trick us? So I get that it's upsetting for people to hear this information, but it is what it is. I'm not saying don't lay hands. It would work a whole lot better if people just used their own intention, laid hands, and allowed their energy to flow. That's going to be way, way more effective than tapping into a false light energy grid. So I'm not telling people, you can do your own version of, if you want to call it Reiki, but just use your own energy. So I'm not even saying, look, you can't heal people. Of course you can. We all have that ability. Just don't tap into that energy grid is what I'm saying. The only energy grids you really want to use are your own and nature's energy. Anything else I would avoid. And if that person is working with false light energy or entities and stuff like that, that stuff can be transferable. So we need to be really careful with the information that we're consuming, particularly when it comes to like frequency videos and things like that. And this goes even further, where I remember 2 or 3 years ago, I experimented with binaural beats, and I was like, I'll just try them. And I kid you not, for about 2 months after that, there was something wrong with my brain. I don't know what it was, but I felt like my brain was really slow, and eventually I found it was like an implant, an etheric implant. But I linked it back to the time when I was doing these binaural beats. It took me ages, because when you're clearing this stuff, there's this kind of like law that if you can find where it comes from, it's easier to clear it. It's like a law of identification. And I was checking. I was like, I couldn't find it. I was like, what have I done differently the last couple of months? I wonder if it was from the binaural beats, because that's where it started. And so when I checked in around the binaural beats, that's where this implant had come in. And other people have then since told me that they've also felt off when listening to certain things like binaural beats and everything like that. So I'm not saying that everything's bad. I'm just saying that we really need to be careful about what we're consuming and what we're opening ourselves up to. I mean, most people, they go to the new age, and because it's all innocent and sweet, then they're never ever going to think for one moment that this stuff is dark or demonic or whatever it is, because it's just not packaged that way. We know that the stuff that they package in the new age is incredible, the way they've marketed it all. It's just, they've marketed some of the most evil things as all this love and light. And so it flies under the radar. This is why it's so dangerous, the new age. So much of it flies under the radar, because you're thinking, well, how can rainbow colours be evil? How can angels be evil? How can chakras be evil? How can all this stuff be evil when it all looks so good and feels so good? And this is the problem that I've had down the years, trying to wake people up from this crap, because it just people are so emotional about it all because it makes them feel good. All this woo woo, it's, you know, when, especially if some people have had a lot of trauma in their life, they don't want to hear someone like me say Reiki's like bad or angels are bad. But those people, they're going to feel good in the moment, but they're not going to feel good when this stuff gets used against them. It's probably a death as well.
So that argument, because it looks good, it feels good, there cannot be anything wrong with it, that doesn't fly anyhow.
No, but you know, people don't want to go that deep, do they? We were just talking off air of the interview about, you know, people just they just want to feel good. They just that's literally all they want to do. And so when you come along and burst their bubble, you know, you get all the pushback. So, but it is what it is. Some people will take it on board and investigate it further, and others won't. So it depends on how interested in truth you are. I mean, I've got so many stories. Like I think I've said before, there was a woman, going back to the sort of false light entities, and she was channeling Archangel Michael, and Archangel Michael helped her find her missing cat. So she had all this belief in him. But then on the flip side, he was getting her to run this massive. She was very prominent in the New Age, so she was like a figurehead, and he was running this scheme to get her hooked into all this like false light grid in some new healing modality. And then ever since she followed him after that, everything went wrong in her life. You know, all the advice she was getting from him, she ended up losing everything, and she ended up hooking a load of other people into this, you know, false light modality. So they give with one hand and they take with the other. This is what people don't understand. They have to give you a bit of sugar to keep you invested, because if they just did what they did, no one would do it. So they sprinkle these turds with glitter. I mean, the fact is that a lot of people, if they feel so great, why do they keep needing to have all these Reiki sessions, and why do they need to keep balancing their chakra, and then their root chakra's out, and then it's their heart chakra? And so, you know, on the surface they might feel great, but when you go deeper, you know, how really further forward are they? So, and I would argue that, yeah, maybe they're just feeling that spiritual high, and whether the crash comes today, tomorrow, next week, next month, inevitably there will be a crash. It's very simple. You're opening yourself up to serpent entities. Or a serpent entity, a particular serpent entity. Serpent entities are one of the most common entity races out there, and there's different variations of it. You've got the four-headed snake, you've got winged serpents, and Kundalini is again, it's like some kind of ritual where you're opening up your energy, and then people literally, when you actually listen and read what people's experiences, it literally is a possession. That's what they're describing, and because the entity then kind of has not maybe fully control over someone's consciousness, but is directing it very strongly. When you question it, that it will immediately defend the experience. And this could be what we were talking about earlier with the Reiki, the people that say they have great stuff. Because they've opened themselves up to these entities are always putting voices in the head. And so the entity will also get triggered. And so it's going to jump to the defense of the modality. So this would apply to Reiki, and it definitely applies to Kundalini. And one thing it really applies to is the whole plant medicine crew with Ayahuasca. I mean, that's another cult. I mean, that's another show we could do. These people will not hear that there's anything bad with what they've done or what they're doing. And when you don't even have to look too far under the surface to see that it is really bad, a lot of what they're doing. So you'll find that people that have these Kundalini experiences, they'll just, a lot of them are bad. They'll say they're really, really traumatic, like physically, like their body gets taken over, they get sick. I mean, entities can make you sick. Like really, that's a thing. And if you have underlying issues, they can amplify that as well. So when you hear these experiences, it doesn't sound good. It doesn't sound like a good thing. And the people that do say that it was a good thing, I would say that they're probably possessed by this snake energy, and they're saying that because they're trying to defend the whole modality. Some of them wake up to it and realize what they've done is really bad. It depends how strong that person's, I don't know, willpower is, but other people really allow that entity to take over and are dominated by it. And then they parrot the rhetoric. They become sort of marketeers for these things. So they become marketeers for Kundalini yoga. They become marketeers for Reiki. The plant medicine people then become marketeers for the ayahuasca and all of that stuff. I mean, there's people here where I live right now. I mentioned it on my recent live. There's quite a few plant medicine people that have moved into this area, and I've seen some of them around, and they're walking around, and I can see that they're looking possessed. And these people are taking ayahuasca or Kambo nearly every day. You try telling them that it's not good, or hang on, your friend there looks like she might have an attachment. Their solution is to drink more ayahuasca or take more Kambo. So they're literally possessed by I would say the plant itself. You know, that when you look at ayahuasca, it's very grabby, very takey, and you know, it actually kind of like strangles trees and stuff like that. And it's almost like that same energy is coming through people as well. And they become marketeers. These things are all cults in the end. That's what they are. Anything like that with a very strong, rigid, defensive and belief system then becomes a cult. And others, as they go through these processes and rituals, the cults get bigger and bigger and say, hang on a minute, what you're doing might not be too good. It's like you get jumped on. So, but it's all entity interference. Stories of people where they've listened to the advice of this plant or the entity probably the entity that's masquerading as the plant, Mother Ayahuasca, they call it. Followed the advice, life turns upside down, everything goes to crap. I hear it so many times, whether it's with angels or friendly aliens, or when they've taken ayahuasca. Because the thing is, when you take these things, people think that when they go into the astral like that, they think that they're seeing everything. They're seeing the encompassing everything in this universe. When actually all they're doing is they're going into the astral. Like we as humans, we go way beyond that layer of the matrix. That's just one layer of this matrix, this computer game. We go way beyond it, beyond that. But when people are going into the astral and they're meeting entities and they're getting all these visuals, they're thinking that they've seen everything. And you can have certain like breakthroughs and insights. I'm not saying that it's totally bad, but we shouldn't, when people take these things, they shouldn't think that, oh, they've seen everything there is now and they've got all the answers. It's most of the stuff that goes on in the astral is manipulation and deception. So all this advice they get in and downloads that they get, I would say, is probably coming from entities. None of these people were ever like a bin man or a road sweeper. They were always like a goddess in ancient Egypt in a previous life, or something exotic. They never say, oh, I swept the roads of London in the 1900s. It's always like, oh, I was in ancient Egypt, I was Osiris or something like this, But yeah, I remember one evening when I was living in Costa Rica, I actually saw the entity set in the room that I was in just for a split second. I just got these things are just entities, and of course they market themselves and they package themselves so well. That's what they do. They masquerade. I mean, when people really need to grasp the fact that these things are master masqueraders. And this is why it's so important to give up these rigid belief systems, because whatever you're into, they'll market themselves to that. So some people never recover. Some people never recover from this Kundalini awakening. It's really sad. In really extreme cases, same with ayahuasca. Sometimes it would just break people to the point of no return. But they don't tell you about these stories. I mean, on ayahuasca retreats, people have died. People have literally died. Do you hear them talking about it in the ayahuasca community? Do you hear them talking about dangers of entity attachments? The dangers of if you've got a lot of trauma? Is there like an aftercare service for people when they open themselves up and spill all their trauma everywhere? No.
Yeah, you are probably familiar with Graham Hancock.
Yeah.
He's quite fond of ayahuasca.
He's a shill, isn't he? I mean, he's on Netflix, and
yeah, and so his experience was quite positive with ayahuasca, but definitely don't do it as a party favor.
No.
Yeah, and I cannot stress that enough. You have to know who is brewing it, what are they brewing, and who are you with.
Yeah, but all these things, in my experience with people, become addictions. I mean, I've worked with and seen so many people down the years that they don't just take ayahuasca once. They end up taking it like 80, 100 times, like however many. All these things are what I call spiritual addictions, because what are they? They're ways to escape ourselves. And so it all comes down to inner work, really, because when you do that inner work, the desire to escape yourself with all of these things subsides, and you can just sit with yourself and be okay with it. But the problem is people want to get out there and connect with this and connect with that because they're so like don't want to be in there. And I get it, this is a tough experience, this human experience. Being in this physical body is tough. And down the years I've wanted to escape, but I found on my own journey, the more I've done that inner work, the less that I have any desire to, like alcohol, the lot. I don't need any of it. And I think that's really the key point in all of this. And a lot of people they don't want to do the inner work. They don't want to spend the time to really truly heal themselves. They want to go to the jungle, take a cup of jungle juice and think that that's going to solve 20, 25 years of deep trauma. It doesn't work like that. Life doesn't work like that. Nature doesn't work like that. It's like these people that they want to eat junk food for 25 years, get obese and have like heart disease, and then they want to take a pill from Big Pharma and hope that's going to heal them. It just doesn't, there's no quick fix to these things. These things are set up within the New Age because they know that people have a lot of trauma, and they know they're going to gravitate these things. They're going to even like, my God, the people I've met down the years that are addicted to meditation retreats. Like every week they're going on a meditation retreat. Again, it's escapism for me. And of course, entities will turn the volume up on all of this as well. Your entities will, if your thing's alcohol or food, it'll be like, go on, just have a burger, just have another glass of wine. It'll be the little whisper in the ear because they're always trying to encourage you to stay off your path and encourage your bad habits and waste your time. So, the entities will hook into our unhealed wounds and amplify them, and make things worse. So, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Tony, we have probably ruffled some feathers today.
Yes, that's normal. But I mean, like I say, I just, what do people want? Do they want to feel good, or do they want to get out of here? That's where we're at. That's where we're at right now. Do you want to feel good in the moment? Keep on with all these things, or do people really want to get out? And so that's what I would say to people. And just do your own research. You don't listen to me. And I don't have all the answers, but I think I've got a good handle on how this stuff works. Yeah, I just,
and I would assume that you see a lot of the fallout from that in your line of work.
All the time, emails every day of people where they've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars, they're no better off, or their life has just collapsed, or they were channeling something, or they were downloading something, or they ended up in a cult, or they ended up in like getting abused by some one day I'll write a book. I mean, it's crazy, and it's one of the reasons why I do what I do on my channel, because I hear it all the time, and I want people to become sovereign and become their own leaders, and not look outside themselves for all these things that are going to lead them astray. And there's nothing wrong with getting help, but it's getting the right help and being discerning about it, which is what we were saying off air. So I'm not against getting help from people, but the problem has been that we've just been going to whatever feels good in the moment, not showing enough discernment. And that's where people are getting unstuck. So question everything is what I would say to people, even things that are old and traditional, and even things that might make you feel good in the moment. So
I have a hard enough time to find a good doctor in this matrix, you know?
Is there a good doctor actually out there?
Some, yeah. But that is like, you know, finding a needle in a haystack, really.
Yeah.
So let alone talking about initiations and what have you.
It's hard to find a good person, let alone a doctor. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is, and they've packaged it all incredibly well. I always say, like, you have to tip your hat at the way they've done it all. I mean, they are the kings at deception and masquerading and hoodwinking people and tricking people. That's why it's a matrix.
Yeah.
So it's being aware of their tricks and manipulations. If you can become more aware in this physical lifetime, you're going to be less likely to be hoodwinked and manipulated at death. And it's so incredibly vital that we do this in this lifetime, because we know that they use a memory wipe at the end of our lives if we get hooked into the light tunnel and everything. And you don't want to learn everything, but still be hooked into angels or Jesus or something. And then that gets used against you. Your memory's wiped, and then you're back down here for another thousands of years. Because that's really where we're at. This is the importance of it. This is a real opportunity, a window of opportunity for people to finally get out of here once and for all. And if you go through that memory wipe system, it could take you another 1,000 lifetimes to learn what you've learned up to now. So just be very careful. If you have a rigid belief system about anything, you know, connections to loved ones, things like connections to pets, I'm not saying don't enjoy them in this physical life, but just leave that at the door. You know, when it's time, just leave it all at the door and just, exit. Head for the exit door.
Yeah, that is a very important, I would say exercise in general, letting go of stuff or whatever it might be. And that is not very easy for most people.
No, we get so attached to everything in this matrix. And it's good to have these physical lifetime attachments. I'm not saying that we shouldn't get close to people, or we shouldn't get close to our fathers, our mothers, our grandfathers, our pets, our children, whatever. But just know that when it comes to time to leave, this AI system has got your algorithm down to a T and be like, right, Judith, cats. That's how we're going to get Judith. The cats are going to show up, right? And if you're there you're still attached to them in this lifetime, and you pass and you're like, oh, where am I going? Oh, there's my cat. Oh, and then all of a sudden you're back down. Your memory's been wiped because your cat's hooked you back in. That was an entity masquerading itself. It sounds so evil, and it really is. It sounds like it's not a very nice message to put across to people. And it's very, very sad. But what do people want to do? You know, for me, I want to get out of here. As much as I love my mum, my dad, you know, my family, my niece, my nephew, what have you, I will leave that all at the door when that time comes. And who knows, maybe outside of this matrix, we can meet up later on down the line. I mean, anything's possible. I really do think anything is possible. Infinite possibilities once we get out of this matrix. So maybe we can create a world where we can all meet up together and all have a good laugh at what happened down in Clown World.